All right, let's get right to it. Andrew, we watched a man here for 12 minutes or so who was just days away from a verdict on his political future. What did you make of the tone?
Nervous, almost wired, in fact. I think he knows he still has to make a sale, and he's trying to make the sale as best he can.
Althia?
Yeah, I think he's trying to be confident, but, you know, if he was so confident, I don't know that he would be doing media interviews trying to convince people that he is this left-wing savior that the New Democrats seem to want to have. So that's my 2 cents on that.
So what are you suggesting? Is he in trouble going into Edmonton?
He is more in trouble than I thought last week, absolutely. And I think that the speech you referred to yesterday with regards to the steelworkers plays exactly to that. We had the NDP Youth Wing come out and say that there should be new leadership. Peggy Nash pretty much just said if he doesn't inspire her and people like her, that he should no longer be the leader. People being New Democrat members, are looking for someone like Bernie Sanders, like Jeremy Corbyn in the UK. And Mr. Mulcair is not Bernie Sanders. While he may be talking about the 1% now, he didn't talk about that during the election campaign. And in fact, he talked about personal income tax raises on income tax for the rich to be a confiscation of income. He has a history that is not like Bernie Sanders, and that Mr. Sanders at every step and turn kind of played up his democratic socialist principles. Mr. Mulcair has been all over the map. And so people have a lot of questions, and that's why so much is riding on Sunday.
Well, he is doing a lot of backflips on a variety of different things, including the fossil fuel issue, which he would not have stood for an open debate 6 months ago on. Andrew, what's your sense? Is he in trouble?
Well, nobody knows for sure. If you talk to people, they tend to come down, it'll be somewhere in the middle, which would be the worst possible result, of course, because it wouldn't clarify anything. The problem is he's got an unusual coalition of the pragmatists who just want to win and are steamed at him for not winning the last time when they thought he should, and the idealists and the radicals who want to move the party well to the left and don't think that he's the leader who can do that. And of course, they have this overarching strategic problem that the Liberal Party is now, squatting all over the left side of the spectrum and leaving them very little room. And for both strategic and idealistic considerations, you might get a large constituency in that party wanting to move left to give them a distinctive identity. So he's facing a real challenge when it comes to the actual vote.
Well, to move left, left of where the Liberals are on some things, although he claims, as you heard in the interview, that they haven't really delivered on what they said. But if he's going to move left, the LEAP manifesto that we referred to is sitting there. Avi Lewis, well-known, very left, son of Stephen Lewis, Naomi Klein, David Suzuki, they're all putting forward this manifesto, especially on the climate change issue. Is that something? Is that what the delegates want to hear this weekend, Althia?
Well, when you look at the policy proposals, most of which are never actually going to make it to the floor of the convention, a lot of the resolutions are in that direction. There's clearly a frustration about the way the NDP perhaps has been moving closer towards the center, and they want to bring the party right back to the far left in some cases. The LEAP manifesto, you touched on it on the interview with regards to fossil fuels, keeping them in the ground, moving to a fossil-free economy, renewable economy in the next 2 decades. But there's lots of talks about, essentially handing over Aboriginal rights, anything to do with Aboriginal rights, right back to Aboriginals themselves, Indigenous people, talking about investing in an economy that is not big profit gouging companies, but the arts and social work, and it's just a total rethink of the economy. This is a platform that one of Mr. Mulcair's own advisors told me was completely unelectable. And so, to have him refer to this as a novel in your interview, again, it's like, who is this man? And I think that's the question a lot of people are asking.
It's an extraordinarily radical document. It talks about pulling out of all trade deals, as Theo said, moving to 100% renewables in 20 years. It would essentially mark the end of the NDP's attempts to form a government. Now, maybe that's where the parties wants to be. They just want to be a radical voice, and that's perfectly respectable. But it would definitely be a difference of approach, fundamentally, to the one that Mr. Mulcair has pursued. What may save him is there's still another 3 years to the election and 2 years till the next review, and there may be a lot of people in the party saying, you know what, we don't have to decide this right now. We can wait, and people naturally tend to like to punt.
There is definitely that happening, especially with some of the union membership. Like we heard Jeremy Dias from Unifor suggest that in 2018, when the party has another convention, or at least is scheduled to have another convention, they could get rid of Mulcair then if they don't want to get rid of him now.
Plus, it gives him 2 years to try and
make the case.
Make the case.
Well, and you'll also have a better sense of what the electoral system is going to be in the next election, which ought to be informing people's calculations.
What
And
about
where the Liberals have positioned themselves.
What about the numbers game? You know, you heard us back and forth somewhere, you know, between 50 and 70 is a big decision to be made. Over 70, one assumes, you know, he moves on, walks on. Where are you on this, Andrew?
Well, I was fascinated to hear him use the phrase clear majority and saying it wasn't 50% plus one, which would be interesting for some other debates.
You sure?
But look, it's a qualitative, not a quantitative judgment. You really can't say there's a number. He's going to have to look on it on the day, get a sense of who particularly is opposing to him. We've seen some caucus members come out in favor. We've seen some say very non-committal answers. So I think it'll be a combination of does he feel like he has enough numbers with the delegates at large and in the caucus that he can carry on, or is he going to be so fatally wounded by this that it's just prolonging the inevitable?
Althia?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see Mr. Mulcair pulling a Bernard Landry, the former Parti Québécois leader who in 2005 decided that 76% was not enough for him to stay on. I think that if he has anything north of 65, he will see that as the convention floor, the delegates giving him a mandate and maybe telling him if the threshold is lower than 70 or the number is lower than 70, that he has a lot of work to do. And I think that that will be his message after the vote, if that's the case.
All right. We're going to leave it at that for now. I know, Althia, you're going out to Edmonton, so we'll be watching your stories as well as, obviously, the CBC News team. Andrew's going to watch from a distance unless he suddenly gets motivated over the next couple of days to head out, and you never know, he might. All right, Andrew and Althia, thank you both.